I think the reason why Revenge of the Sith has the best lightsaber fights in the entire Star Wars franchise, TV shows included, is because they spent months prepping that entire sequence, the entire shoot, all the lightsaber battles in general, including the one in the first act when they're going after General Grievous on the ships. But, I mean, when we're talking about the Battle of Mustafar, Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor put in so much work, training, plus the stunt team and the choreography team put months in training just doing pre-visualization, which was huge for this film. And I think that makes it stand out apart. You know, they spent months filming, choreographing, doing early shoots, test shoots, just to get everything right to make it all seem so fluid and natural. And man, it works so well in this movie.
And Hayden and Ewan, they're really great with the style of fighting that Jedi swordplay has. It's a lot of the twists, the spinning, really cool movements. And I've not seen that speed and choreography since.
Me neither, yeah.
In any Star Wars, even the new films and especially the TV shows. And you can look at a highlight of the battle in Rise of Skywalker between Rey and Kylo Ren, and it's like this very slow, methodical, kind of walking, hashing of the swords.
Well, they're not trained. They don't have the Jedi training.
He is for sure.
Who, Kylo?
Kylo.
Not who. I mean, he has some Jedi training from his youth.
Luke trained him, motherfucker.
Yeah, from his youth when he was a kid. Exactly. But anyways, we're talking about Revenge of the Sith.
We'll not get into that.
Star Wars Revenge of the Sith just got its 20th year anniversary release in theaters. We checked it out, and my God, what a fun experience it was to see a Star Wars movie in theaters for the first time in a while. And I gotta say, this is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. I think it's the best of the prequel trilogy for sure. And I gotta say, Star Wars is so much more fun when you're with Jedi. It is beyond fun. It's so enticing. The banter between Obi-Wan and Anakin is so fun and light and brotherly, and it gets so much more dramatic. But man, whenever you're with Jedi, their powers, their abilities, the way they can infiltrate facilities, it's just so fucking fun.
I totally agree. I absolutely agree. I love the culture of the Jedi. Because I'm a huge fan of samurai films, and obviously George Lucas pulled from that. And we didn't get too much of an extension of what the Jedi were in the original films. In this film, this trilogy, especially this film, you could say one of the highlights of the prequels is getting the infrastructure of the Jedi, the political aspirations of the Jedi, the scope of them, who they are, where they work, what their jobs are like. And I really enjoy seeing how big the community of Jedi are.
Yeah, but but the first movie we are with Obi-Wan, like the whole A New Hope.
I'm talking like the scope of it.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, I'm talking like
council and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Like they are a community in the universe. They were all dead and shit by the time A New Hope came around.
Well, Mace is dead, yeah.
Obi-Wan's like the last one left, obviously, and Yoda. But in this, you could say in this trilogy, we really get to dive into who the Jedi are, what they believe, and I think it's a really alluring kind of path. They're kind of a mix between a monk and a samurai, and who believe in good and morality. And it's just an incredible experience to see this in theaters again. 20 years, I'm starting to feel very old because we saw this when it came out. We saw it when it came out, and it brought the heat, man.
2005, man.
And it needed this film because the prequel trilogy wasn't that strong, but then they finished on a high note and really wrapped up the story of the trilogy. I think I would say the ending of Revenge is better than the Return of the Jedi's ending in some ways.
Oh, it's a bold movie. I mean, it's more exciting and alluring, especially because the focus of this movie is on Anakin. The whole trilogy is about Anakin and how he became Darth Vader. Revenge of the Sith specifically chronicles Anakin transforming into Darth Vader, becoming the new apprentice of Darth Sidious, the fall of the Jedi Order, the rise of the Galactic Empire, and I think the moral descent of Anakin Skywalker contrasts the fall of the Republic so goddamn well. And, you know, this is also set during the Clone Wars, which is that galaxy-wide conflict between the Republic led by the Jedi and the Separatists, orchestrated by the Sith. But this is Anakin's story. It's his movie, even though Obi-Wan is such a fun part of the film, and he's a really standout character by the incredible Ewan McGregor. This is Anakin's movie. He's the main character in so many different ways as he falls from the heights of being the chosen one. He still is the chosen one, obviously, but not in the way that people expected him to be. Real quick before we continue, if you want an amazing Star Wars poster like the Revenge of Sith one behind my shoulder, go to movieposters.com right now and use our coupon code Raiders10 at checkout to get 10% off. They're our incredible sponsor. We also have an affiliate link with movieposters.com. That link will be in the description of this episode, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, also in our Instagram bio. It's very important because it helps get us commission on purchases. So you use our affiliate link, we get 10% of commission. You use our code 10% off, you get 10% off. It's a win-win-win for everyone. You get a kick-ass poster. Thanks so much to movieposters.com.
I love Obi-Wan in this film. It's my favorite Obi-Wan outside of Alec Guinness because this is where he went closer to what Alec Guinness did. It was like we were getting there. He had the personality. He was so young in the other ones, but then when he has the beard, he has the hair. You really see like, oh, this is a young Alec Guinness in Ewan McGregor's. And on this rewatch, I saw a lot of new things that I never make connections to. There are a lot of details and hidden Easter eggs, and it's just these things sprinkled out that you don't notice on your early watches. But, seeing it on the big screen, I was able to see more details and make connections to things I never made connections before. There's a thing with Padme that I never noticed. I never made the connection. Maybe I'm a bonehead. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, what is it?
So, I didn't realize, but part of the fuel of the fire of Anakin in his desperation to be the one to save Padme is in his vision early on in the film. We're talking the first act of the film, and it's the vision he has of Padme in childbirth and struggling and dying.
The nightmare, yeah.
Yeah, the nightmare. And in that vision, it's Obi-Wan trying to save Padme, and we end up seeing the scene late in the film during her death in childbirth. But I never made the connection that part of what's fueling Anakin is he doesn't want Obi-Wan to be her savior. He wants to be the one to save her. And that's an instance of selfishly making it about himself, of if someone's going to save Padme, it has to be me. And that's why in the next scene, he reiterates, I'm going to protect you. And I didn't realize it, but it definitely plays Obi-Wan's presence in his vision and his nightmare definitely has a part to play in his desperate attempt to save her.
That's an interesting
and not letting anyone else help.
It's an interesting way to interpret that. I never looked at it like, oh, Obi-Wan's the one saving you. I want to be the one to save you. Mm-hmm. I looked at the nightmare as his wife's in distress. Something's going wrong. She's dying. And that all leads to jealousy with Obi-Wan. That's why he's always kind of criticizing Obi-Wan or assuming there's something going on between him and Padme and these little nuances throughout the rest of the film, especially in the second to third act. And then obviously when he discovers that Obi-Wan was hiding on the ship the whole time when Padme comes to Mustafar and he's just standing up the top of the ramp like a badass. You brought him here!
You will not take it from me!
So I think that's jealousy that Anakin feels of Obi-Wan.
No, yeah, but I never realized, well, for me on this rewatch, it was that image of Obi-Wan in the dream trying to help Padme, which was the the catalyst for the jealousy that I ended up feeling for the rest of the story.
I guess that's definitely a connection for sure.
I never even thought of that before in the past. Yeah, I always thought of it as just a nightmare of Padme dying. But I like it. I think it actually, for me, it works with the relationship.
Yeah, that works really well. But this movie's kick-ass, man. It opens real strong. This is one of the better of the franchise. Opens with that great space battle above Coruscant. This is where Anakin and Obi-Wan rescue Chancellor Palpatine from Count Dooku and General Grievous. Anakin kills Dooku, obviously foreshadowing his capacity for darkness in such a great, exciting moment. But this battle sequence is fantastic. It sort of feels like a blend between, obviously, Star Wars, but then this movie specifically feels like elements of The Fifth Element in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
I think the cityscapes and everything like that. But this one has this epic space battle. We see how skilled Anakin is at flying and at, obviously, combat as well as the Chosen One. He's one of the better lightsaber duelists in the galaxy when it comes to Jedi, and one of the best flyers in the galaxy as well.
He's like Paul Atreides, basically.
He's a badass. Yeah. he's a badass. I didn't bring up doing this time. That was Anthony. Anthony brought up doing, not me. Paul's a pretty good pilot. But saves Obi-Wan's skin, and then they take down Count Dooku. General Grievous gets away. But this movie's so smart because it gives us nuggets and teases of the dark side that's alluring to Anakin through Palpatine, the Chancellor, who they think they are saving, but this is all pretty much just a ploy. You can even see the surprise on Dooku's face once Palpatine commands Anakin to kill him, that he's like, wait, what, you're going to kill me?
This opening's great. It's a minute and 40-second wonder to open, and they really did fly the camera through space during the battle. It's not stitched
real.
together. It's all
battle
real.
Was real.
It was all a real uncut take. The visual effects hold up pretty well on the big screen. I got to say, 20 years later, it does look great. It's very exciting, and I remember being floored by it when we saw it when we were like 16 years old. It was insane to see this incredible opening, and it is reminiscent of the Phantom Menace opening with Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, but now the roles are kind of reversed, and I love the banter. I love the two of them together. There's also something that I noticed on this rewatch that I never noticed before, and it's when they're closing in on Dooku and Palpatine, and the droids start firing at our two Jedi heroes. They're not even firing at Anakin. I might be wrong, but I believe most of all their laser fire is they're aiming only at Obi-Wan and because Palpatine clearly told them don't hurt Anakin because he's my guy.
He's my boy.
He's my boy. He's my boy. And so if you look, I'm pretty sure they avoid firing anything at Anakin. And it's like Obi-Wan's taking all the heat.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I never noticed that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to have to look that up.
And Obi-Wan does say the line. I never really got it at first because he says, I sense a trap when he walks into the main area. And it's like the trap isn't right here. It's not technically like a physically trap right here. But overall, it's a trap for the whole movie's a trap for Anakin. Is I think what he's that's what he's sensing. He doesn't realize how subtle and nuanced the trap is. He was thinking the trap should be here. But I think the trap he was sensing was the overall plan of Palpatine's.
Yeah, obviously Dooku didn't know the full plan either.
He was like, what? Killing me?
Dude lost a head over this. But staying on the visual effects, George Lucas and his team, and especially the genius magicians at ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, they just changed the game with filmmaking here. It's interesting. In 2005, we had two very heavily shot green screen movies come out that were huge hits. We had Revenge of the Sith and also Sin City came out in 2005 as well. And these movies pretty much almost entirely shot on green screens. You know, the behind-the-scenes footage of both those films, but since we're talking about Revenge of the Sith, is really fascinating. It's really interesting. You know, a lot of the time our characters are just interacting with each other in front of blue screens, in front of green screens, sitting on green screen blocks, being wired up, and a lot of the situations, a lot of the scenes are literally just shot in front of green screens, whether it's inside of a bedroom or outside of a skyscraper, inside of a ship. Green screen everywhere.
They didn't build anything.
They did build some stuff.
Yeah.
There are a couple sets. You know, the apartment set was actually built. There are a few practical sets. Some of the
towers
space
that they're on the fight.
But a lot of the time, like even if you're looking at the opera scene with Anakin as well as the Chancellor, the chairs are real. The rest of that, they're just on a green screen studio. So it's really fascinating how they were really changing things and pioneering digital filmmaking and digital technology with HD cameras. And, you know, they were pushing new boundaries here. And if you look at it from BTS, you're like, how did this end up working? And it's just ILM, such genius visual effects artists, and just really enhanced the clarity of this incredible vision by George Lucas to do everything almost in visual effects with post-production. With the ground is CGI, the walls are CGI, the structures. And, you know, George Lucas has always been tinkering with his movies since he finished them. I mean, if you look at the differences between the original releases of like Empire Strikes Back or New Hope or Return of the Jedi, and you go frame by frame or scene by scene, they add so much new stuff with post-production and visual effects, whether it be windows for skyscrapers and buildings that were originally walls, or adding new creatures. We all know that he's been tinkering still. But the CGI was very advanced for the time in 2005 when they were making this. And, you know, we have entirely CGI characters like General Grievous here for several sequences of this movie, which is really great. But they were really pushing new boundaries with the visual and virtual filmmaking, not quite to the extent that James Cameron pushed it in 2009 with Avatar, creating actual 3D environments to film on. You know, with Avatar, like we talked about in that episode that we did of Avatar, building 3D worlds so that when you're on set, you're seeing real-time visual representations of Pandora and very crude CGI renderings of them, but you're on a green screen studio, but it looks like trees and wilderness all around you, so it's really fascinating. They didn't get to that point here, but they had to, because they're shooting on green screens, previs and pre-visualization for Revenge of the Sith, as well as the other two prequel movies, were essential to planning and making sure they knew exactly what they were filming every time they were turning the camera on.
And what's really interesting about the CGI character work, because there are a couple of characters, Grievous and Yoda, entirely CGI, and they have a lot of screen time. What's interesting in this is they weren't performed on set by anybody. There was no mocap. There's no actor portrayed them. It was all CGI, so it was like tennis balls. And that's interesting, and must have been a challenge to work with acting-wise, to be acting opposite really nothing there. But yeah, they didn't use any mocap in this film that I found in my research. I could be wrong, but that's also very interesting.
No, there's no motion capture.
Yeah, no motion capture. So I think that Lucas was like, the technology was still so raw and new. Jackson was just scratching the surface of it in 2002 with it, in 2000 with it. And I'm sure Lucas was like, no, we don't need to do that. But it's interesting because they do look so fully realized, and they move really well. They feel really well. Obviously, it doesn't hold up to today's standards of great CGI, but I think for the most part, like, Yoda does work for most of the film, and he does look good. Grievous, I think, looks fantastic. It helps to have a metallic and plastic exterior with the smooth surfaces, but Yoda does look very good, especially in the lightsaber fight, so it's a lot of fun. And then on top of that, the fights, like a lot of Palpatine and his swordplay and his fighting and action CGI uses in those fight sequences.
Yeah, with Yoda too. I mean, you could have, there's stunt doubles for Palpatine in moments with a facial replacement, but Yoda, you can't really have a stunt double to do Yoda. So a lot of it was CGI, but it works, like Anthony said, and even on the big screen with the re-release, it still felt so immersive. Of course, you can feel the green screen in the background nowadays. You really can once you watch it, because you know it's there. But it's really still incredible, I think, what they were able to accomplish. In our last episode, our movie chat on last Wednesday, we were talking about the pros and cons to blue screen and green screen. You know, you can't make this movie without green screens and the skill for what George Lucas wanted to create as efficiently as he did. Same thing with Sin City. You can't make that movie without green screen. You can't make Mad Max Fury Road or Furiosa without green screen. So there are pros and cons to it, and some filmmakers use it super effectively. And I think that George, right now, you know, you look at CGI replacement and fake backgrounds and how advanced it's gone. Has it really gone as far as George Lucas was pushing the boundaries here, 20 years later? Has it improved as much as it could have? I feel like sometimes yes, sometimes no. Mm-hmm. But man, I couldn't believe this movie came out in 2005 when I was watching it.
Yeah, it looks really great. And there's also some visual effects that they probably couldn't figure out how to put in with making it look good, because what do you mean? There was limits. So in the novelization, I haven't read it. I'm not, but in my extensive research for this. So when Palpatine attacks the Jedi, when they bombard him in his office and they're like, "Yo, we're taking you in," and he's like, "I'm just an old man." He starts attacking them. He seems to take out those other two Jedi pretty quickly and easily, right? And it seems to be like they aren't really defending themselves that well. So there's two things that he did in the attack that actually showcases why they seem to be like so inept at defending themselves from his attack. Because when you watch it, you're like, he killed them like pretty easily. So the first thing he did was he did a scream, and it's like a Sith scream. It's like a move. It's like a certain move the Sith can do, and it creates a shockwave and just bombarding the senses of whoever he's attacking. Hence, like, their dazed, kind of slow reaction time. And also in the novelization, it says that he moves so quickly that it's really it's like a flash of light that blurs, and that's all they saw before they got struck. And maybe that's something that they couldn't figure out how to make it look good with the visual effects they were working with. That might be something that maybe they couldn't fully realize that vision with where CGI was at the time.
Well, I mean, cinematically, yeah, it'd be really hard to film, but also, does it work as well cinematically versus just reading the book? When you read something like that, in your mind, you can visualize it so well, but I don't think that even if you filmed it like that, where he's just a blur moving around, I don't know if it would even work as well as just having
would he look like Sonic?
Yeah, exactly. Or I guess you could argue, Man of Steel movements, especially that battle sequence the first time we see him fighting the Kryptonians, and seeing how quickly they move, they're in one spot for a second, then they just flash, they're in another spot.
Good point.
I would argue that wouldn't come across cinematically very well. right in this year in 2005 when they're making this 2004. So I think that even though the novelization might go into more detail about the Force powers and things that they were doing, it's in the book. You can't do everything.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that they probably didn't even try to. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
You don't want to just see a Flash moving around. I want to see Palpatine taking people's heads off.
And also you have the problem of like, why never use that ability again? Just like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and running super fast in Phantom Menace. Like,
Sure.
To never use that ability again.
Star Wars, man.
But otherwise, the CGI looks great.
Yeah, and again, this movie was only possible because of intense prep, crazy amounts of pre-production with choreographing, pre-shooting and test shooting every action sequence that they did. They built, so they had blueprints basically of what their sets were going to be when it came into post-production for CGI and what ILM was going to create. Filming on green screens and blue screens, but they basically had digital blueprints of what the sets would look like. And so what the stunt team and stunt choreography teams would have to do when they had, Hayden and Ewan plus their stunt actors training for all the lightsaber fights, and even little sequences like running through the ships and going through doors, they would have to build crude versions of the blueprints, of the digital blueprints, so they could actually effectively and accurately choreograph their sequences, whether they're fighting through that small hallway, when Anakin and Obi-Wan are having their battle in Mustafar and they're, traversing different parts of the building before they're outside and they're fighting through the hallway and their lightsabers are slamming against the halls. You know what I mean? That cool shot. Sparks are flying everywhere. Building an actual tunnel with mats and practicing inside that. So they're actually building and test shooting with crude blueprints, sets built with, padding, to practice all their stunts that they know when they're on the green screen and everything's blueprint marked out with tape on the ground, like this is going to be a door right here, that's going to be a wall right there. They know exactly that the choreography that they did in their test shoots were going to match the choreography that they have to do on the day of actual filming on the green screen studios because their blueprints are the exact same thing.
It's really incredible to be like, you're pushing the technology as you're making the film. How Peter Jackson did with Lord of the Rings, and then George Lucas with both the development of HD cameras for the second film and then the third film, making it even better, as well as you're developing the technology as you're making the movie. And there's a great little tidbit back to James Cameron about Avatar. Robert Rodriguez just had a huge podcast talking about him.
I've been seeing clips of it, on the Lex Fridman one.
And
right?
he said that he and Cameron go way back, and he said Cameron was writing Avatar in the 90s. And he showed him like the first notes of Avatar, which is crazy.
Wow.
Robert Rodriguez said he read the first treatment of Avatar in 1994.
Holy crap.
Yeah. It's just Cameron was trying to figure out how to do it. But in terms of when Cameron was actually filming Avatar, we're talking like 2007 or something when they were actually doing photography or beginning photography.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been developing it for 10 years before they even shot.
Robert Rodriguez said he visited the set and they were looking at like the things they were filming. And he said James Cameron said to him, "I hope it comes out photorealistic."
He had no idea.
So Cameron wasn't sure that it was going to come out as photorealistic as it ended up being because the rendering took so long.
Yeah, and I'm sure their tests were great, but it's also they didn't test doing an entire movie.
Exactly. So he was just like, it was a shot in the dark, essentially. Because he didn't realize, he wasn't sure, he was guessing, he felt confident enough to make a $300 million movie to be like, it's going to look good, but he didn't know how good it would look. And you can say the same thing Lucas and his team and ILM were doing. Like, they were like, okay, we're doing this. We'll see how it is. But it had never been done before to this extent. They had done plenty from Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones for sure. But I think a lot of Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, there's so many sequences in Attack of the Clones that are just only CGI, like especially the clone battles, with very little live action in them. And so you can just make them on their own. But you have a lot, in this one, you have a lot of people and actors interacting with all of these sets in a huge way. And not building any of the sets except for a handful. So I think they were also pushing the boundaries while they were filming and just being like, we think it's going to work really well when it comes together, but we're on this engine. We're going forward. Let's just keep working as best we can.
Another thing that was borderline groundbreaking, not unheard of, but pretty new to the film industry at the time was editing same day that you were shooting. And this is all because of a digital production that George Lucas and his team are running and really kind of pioneering here in the 2000s. They did this with the other prequel movies as well, where because they have the benefit of not having to wait for reels to get processed to, wait till like the next day to see your dailies or several hours to see your dailies, they only have to wait a couple hours. So while they're shooting, they'd film all morning on the green screens, and then they would send all that footage to their editor that same day. They take their lunch break or whatever, and they start working on some other stuff. But, later by the end of the day, the editor has a rough cut of the scene they just shot to show George Lucas to make sure he gets all of his shots. That also is already greatly enhanced by having digital productions and being able to make sure you got the shots you want, which is so important here when you're shooting on entirely green screens with digital blueprints of your sets. But you're able to roughly cut edits of your scenes the same day that you're fucking shooting them, which is incredible. But it shows how big of a team they had working on these movies and how efficient it became. And you have all kinds of different jobs. Obviously script supervisors are keeping track of everything that's happening in camera while you're filming. But then, in order to be able to pull this off, every shot has to there's someone who's detailing every specific detail of what's happening on every single shot. So every shot has its own index of information that's getting handed off to the editor to make sure that they know continuity-wise everything's correct, and also continuity-wise what to expect when you're doing a different shot to cut in. But it's really incredible that they had this crazily efficient system for this massive, massive movie that is the third of this much anticipated trilogy that people, expect to get released at a specific time. So they have to film so efficiently and start editing so efficiently so they can give ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, enough time to do all the crazy, amazing visual effects, CGI post-production work for every scene they can get, because then they send that rough cut scene once they finish tinkering with it in the post-production studio with George and the editor, and they send it off to ILM to do all the magic.
You could argue that this is definitely one of the most influential films to modern filmmaking that we see a lot today.
That's a good point.
Big budget, Marvel, DC, whatever. Not really Star Wars, because with the sequel trilogy, they built a lot of stuff practically, and were doing a lot of film. They were shooting on film, but definitely with huge Marvel movies, intense amounts of blue screen and green screen and digital sets that we see a lot nowadays. This was definitely the movie that really was the one that started to create a kind of workflow and making it filmmakers realize that it's possible to do it this way with CGI as opposed to building everything.
Yeah, it's just incredible. It's just ahead of its time, but also it's one of those things where, they let Pandora out of the box, and has it gone too far in some situations? Has it gone too far in some franchises and some filmmaking and some movies? Because then now we have a movie like Minecraft, which is going to be $1 billion film. And honestly, I saw Minecraft and I thought the visual effects were freaking great in that movie. Mm-hmm. That's the same thing. That whole movie was shot on green screens. They built some sets, of course, and some props. But a lot of that movie, same deal. You're building few things, but with massive 3D scope green screen shooting, and it looked incredible. But, is that a double-edged sword? It looks incredible. You can do things you couldn't do practically in camera. But now, do we just get too many green screen movies?
Well, then you look at Ant-Man 3, and it looks not incredible.
Yeah.
And it just really does feel like people standing in front of flat surfaces that are then animated. And you really feel that.
Which is exactly...
I didn't see it in Minecraft, but it sounds like they did a much better job with the...
Visual effects were awesome.
Yeah,
it was really, really good.
If it's done right, it can look great. And George Lucas proved that, because still being 20 years old and still looking great. But on top of that, visual effects aside, and production's great, this is out of the three movies, by far the best story, best character work.
Outside of Padme.
Yeah, outside of Padme's great in the first two films, the first film especially. But in this film, she really does take a back seat.
Yeah, the writing just kind of left her aside.
Yeah, Anakin obviously gets the brunt of the work, but Ian McShane... Ian McDormand.
I was like, is this John Wick?
Oh my God, he's so good in this movie.
He really is.
He is sensational. I think it's up there with all-time Star Wars performances. It could be the most impressive acting performance in a Star Wars film. It's his performance in this film in particular, playing kind of two dual roles, bouncing between the Emperor that we all know to the Palpatine, the just Chancellor, And it's just an incredible display of talent, and he really was perfect for this role. And I think I'm just so impressed watching his scenes. The opera scene's great. The friendliness, the manipulation. He sometimes lets out these little hints and clues. Just the way he says words. He'll be acting as Palpatine, the Chancellor, but when he says certain words, like when he says the word power, he drops down an octave. He'll be like, blah, 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 power. It's just like he lets out these little tiny hints and idiosyncrasies in his performance with his vocal range that on repeat watches, it really holds up as an astounding performance and is the glue to the film. Again, it is also a master plan by Palpatine. It's one of the best villain plans of all time. It really works, and he plays Anakin like a violin. Anakin makes all the moves that he predicts he'll make, and it's a really strong pull. He comes up with a great concept of how do I get Anakin curious about the dark side? How do I make him vulnerable, and how do I make him need the dark side? Because that's essentially what he does. He puts Anakin in a situation where he has no choice but to join the dark side to achieve what he wants. And Anakin's goal is to save Padme in this movie. Palpatine's goal is to turn Anakin. And so he uses Anakin's need against himself in a brilliant way. It's chess, not checkers. This shit's chess. It ain't checkers. A little Alonzo Harris for you.
Watch his Training Day.
But he's a wonderful performer, and he really shines in this film.
Yeah, it's comparable, the style of performance, to Alan Rickman in the Harry Potter franchise, or as Gruber in the Die Hard world. Just knowing how to reframe your sentences and your dialogue for specific enunciations on specific words, so they drop like hammers. Pausing and beats. And Palpatine is brilliant in this movie, and Ian's phenomenal. And I think one of my favorite parts of the performance of Palpatine is he's basically the whole time just a pursuer stalking its prey, a hunter, just circling its kill, getting closer and closer and closer until it can finally sink its fangs into its throat, which is the moment when they kill Mace Windu together. That's the moment where now Anakin pledges fealty to his new master, and he becomes the apprentice to the current Sith Lord, and becomes anointed Darth Vader. But it takes the whole movie to get there, and you could argue it takes a bit of Episode 2 to get there, because Anakin has this close relationship with Palpatine, and before this film, he confesses what he did to the people who took his mother and how his mother died, and he confided in Palpatine, and they have this close friendship. Doesn't know that Palpatine is a Darth Sith yet, but obviously it's something that he discovers, and when he does discover it, he succumbs to the coaxing of the dark side. But throughout the first half of the film, Palpatine is just circling his prey, trying and failing at specific things to coax Anakin into the dark side. There are some things that work that he's drawn to, but there are some things that he's not. He consistently goes to what works throughout the rest of the film of saving Padme. He tries to bring up how the Jedi are just like the Sith, but Anakin believes very much in the Jedi until he's corrupted by the dark side, thinking that they're evil like the Sith. But at first, Sidious, a.k.a. Palpatine, goes that route, going after the Jedi, but that fails, and Anakin kind of stands up for the Jedi for quite a bit until he doesn't throughout the rest of the film. But he does stand up for it, and then Palpatine knows, let's shift back to Padme. What does he really care about? And everyone can sense his fear. Everyone can sense his anxiety, his worries. Mace Windu brings it up. Yoda brings it up. Obi-Wan brings it up, how there's anger inside of them. There's fear inside of him. He's unsure of himself. Even though he's very skilled, they all understand that the prophecy says that he could be the chosen one. Yoda says maybe it was misread. It wasn't misread. It's just misinterpreted. They didn't understand what the chosen one would mean in terms of how he'd bring balance to the Force, which we don't find out till Episode 6, really. But I think it's really fun to watch Palpatine in this movie because he's just getting closer and closer until he's able to completely manipulate Anakin, even when he admits that he is Darth Sidious to him and he is a Sith Lord. Anakin can't believe it and says he's going to arrest him and take him down. And he can't stand for it. Even then, when he tells Mace Windu about it, and they go after Palpatine together, he still succumbs to the dark side because he wants to save Padme more than anything.
And there's a great bookend in the opening when he kills Dooku, because he argues when Palpatine's trying to convince him to kill Dooku.
Do it.
He says he's too dangerous to be kept alive, and that's one of the arguments that he makes to Anakin, and Anakin gives in and slices that dude's head off. No questions asked. Scissors. And then when Mace has Palpatine cornered, when he's about to kill him, Anakin defends Palpatine, saying he's too dangerous to be kept alive. I mean, Mace Windu says to Anakin, when Anakin's trying to be like, don't kill him, he needs to be tried, and Mace Windu says he's too dangerous to be kept alive. I think that the guilt he feels about literally murdering Dooku is what fuels his, on top of Palpatine being his only chance to save Padme, he in his eyes, but the guilt he felt about literally murking an unarmed man, beheading him, helped him make that decision to take out Mace Windu.
And it also connects to, there are flaws in the Jedi Order. There are flaws in it that you can interpret that if you could coerce someone into thinking against them. You know, the Jedi do have similarities to the dark side, to the Siths, and they do have this dogma. They have a detachment from emotion. That's something about Jedi. They don't feel emotion. Although everything they do is for the good of people. You could argue that from Anakin's eyes, after those whispers continuously enter his ears from Palpatine, that it can look like from the outside that the Jedi are trying to take over the Republic, because they're going to have to eventually, because Palpatine is turning the Republic against them, and he's got this great plan to get power for himself, to become an emperor, to bring power to the dark side for the first time in such a long time, and bring power back to the Sith, to bring peace. And then, because Palpatine knows that the Jedi are the biggest obstacle in his way, and he does have this secret plan. Order 66 is a secret plan that once he gets it onto the broadcast and sends it out to his troops, they immediately initiate it. So it's something that's been in development for a while that only is on a need-to-know basis outside of the Jedi.
And there's something kind of ironic about the idea of bringing balance to the Force, because for proper balance, don't you need light and dark? And
sure.
And so the Jedi's desire to eliminate and wipe out the Sith entirely, wouldn't that offset the balance?
Yeah, you could argue.
So that's actually like an unjust way to pursue the balance.
So you want bad guys out there, Anthony?
I'm just saying, if they're talking about balance, if it's all us, if we take them all out, where's the balance then?
Yeah, but then you could argue that by balance, that means the Force can only be in balance when the dark is gone.
But then if it's gone, then it's off kilter.
No, it's not.
No yin and yang.
It doesn't work like that.
I'm just theorizing. How does it work, James?
I didn't make the fucking Force. But I don't think it works where it's healthiest in a healthy state when there's just as many bad dark side Force elements versus good Force elements.
I know. So in a way, the Sith are like, this is bullshit.
No. What I'm saying is, I don't think it works like that. I don't think it works like a pendulum or measure.
And you're saying in order to create balance, you have to eliminate the darkness?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I guess, it doesn't really make sense to me, but
I
it's
guess.
a flaw. It's a flaw in the Jedi.
Well, again, but there are flaws in the Jedi.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Palpatine's opening Anakin's eyes to.
There's a really cool piece of art in Palpatine's office. It's this big stone carved mural, and it depicts a battle between Sith and Jedi. And the Jedi view it as a celebration of them, but the Sith also view it as a celebration of themselves. So in a way, Palpatine hid in plain sight by having this mural of this battle between the Jedi and Sith. And publicly it looks like, oh, he's pro-Jedi, but in reality he put it up there because he's pro-Sith.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now, this movie, just like the Jedi, does have flaws. You know, this is a divisive film despite being loved by so many fans, and I think has just been aging really well with the fans. You know, Hayden Christensen, when this movie came out, people were coming after him. For years and years they came after that guy for his performance in this movie. And you know what? I think Hayden does a great job working with what he's got. You know, you're working on green screens. The dialogue sometimes is amazing, and George Lucas has always been spectacle over, I think, great dialogue. You know,
Performance, yeah. And I've also seen interviews of actors saying he kind of leaves them and like he's like, okay, say your lines. There's
Which
not
is what
much-
it
yeah.
is. You know, I think he's different. Every director's different, and obviously he's a genius.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that after we get back from our intermission, though. So before we continue, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost Podcast is to become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast, or else we will initiate Order 66.
Woo!
Become a patron and get access to weekly bonus episodes of the show, the ad-free, commercial-free version of every single main episode, plus access to our Discord. Patreon helps us pay the bills and allows us to do the show full-time, so thank you so much to our past, present, and future patrons. With 5 different tiers of membership, find out which one is best for you and your budget. Another great way to support the show. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. I'm going to read a written review from Apple Podcasts in just a minute, so that person will be immortalized on the show in a Star Wars episode forever. Another great way to support the show. Subscribe on YouTube. Leave those comments. Engage with our content on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Engagement is key to us getting great opportunities like that interview we did with Robert Pattinson, or getting invited by TikTok to do all kinds of cool stuff at Universal a couple weeks ago. So we don't get these jobs without engagement. So share our videos, comment, subscribe everywhere. Also, share us with your family and friends. Anyone you know that loves movies, that needs a new podcast, that you know sits in traffic a lot or is at the gym, needs something new to listen to, send them our show. We break down all kinds of movies, new, present, past, future, all kinds of stuff. You know the deal.
This episode, of course, is sponsored by our amazing friends at movieposters.com, the #1 place to get your posters online today. And be sure to use our promo code right now, Raiders10. That will always get you 10% off your order no matter what. Look at that beautiful Revenge of the Sith poster behind James. That is a double-sided movie theater quality print with an incredible backlit frame.
Incredible
Backlit frame. This backlit frame fucking pops. It looks so good. If you want your home to look like a movie theater, get some backlit frames at movieposters.com. They have all of the Star Wars movies and TV shows in their poster library. They even have some alternates too, which are really cool, as well as classic movies, international films, everything from your favorite Hollywood blockbuster to your favorite indie classic, as well as lots and lots and lots of TV shows. For all the film collectors out there, the cinephiles who love weird old movies, they have a ton of original prints. Like you can get original movie theater prints of classic movies. These are collector's items, very rare, very valuable over time, as well as lobby cards, half sheets, one sheets, whatever your heart desires as a movie fan. They have it at movieposters.com. Always get your posters there. Use our promo code Raiders10. That will always get you 10% off your order. And don't forget to use our affiliate link in the description of this episode, as well as in our Instagram and social media bios. That affiliate link gives us a little cut of the action, so you help us out. Help us help you. Help us. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Jeremy
Movieposters.com.
Let's get
Who's coming with me?
Who's coming with me to the intermission? Let's start with the movie quote competition. Are you ready, sir?
Ready.
I'm always on the lookout for the future ex-Mrs. Malcolm.
That is Jurassic Park.
Yes, sir.
His fifth wife? He's had 5 wives?
I don't know if it's...
I think
At least 3.
I think he's been married like 5 times.
That's a lot for someone that's 42 years old.
He must be hard to live with.
Probably.
Here's mine. 1,000 years from now, there will be no guys and no girls, just wankers. Sounds great to me.
That's such a good line. I'm trying to think. Is that a Guy Ritchie movie? The Gentleman?
No.
Snatch?
Nope.
I don't know.
Train Spotting.
Okay. Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Same island.
Yeah. Same island.
Around the same time.
Movie release here. When did Mrs. Doubtfire come out?
I feel like this is older than I think it is. 1993?
Oh, he's right on the money.
Oh,
Let's go. Bow, bow, bow.
2 for 2. What year did Moulin Rouge come out?
2001.
Yeah!
Let's go. Whoa! Back to back jacks.
Oh!
Let's go. All right. I have a fun pop quiz question.
Let's have fun.
Okay, so in 1993, we all know that Steven Spielberg released both Jurassic Park and Schindler's List. Incredible.
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List. Amazing achievement. Can you name any other instances of directors releasing 2 movies in 1 year? And can you name the director?
Great question, James. Excellent question. I'm gonna go with. Hold on, let me think for a sec.
It's quite a few.
I'm sure there are a bunch. Soderbergh. Presents in Black Bag this year.
I believe Presents was Presents this year? Hold on,
Yeah,
let
it
me
was
double check.
February. It was this year.
Oh yeah, good one. Nice. There you go. There you go. He's got one.
It's not even on your list.
It's too new. Too new.
I feel like there might be another Soderbergh instance. Ridley Scott came out with.
No, Presents 2024.
It was 2024.
Yeah.
Oh damn. Well, he has another one coming out this year.
Does he?
Probably.
Well, how about nothing this year? It's too early.
Okay. This is a really good question. Shit. Who makes a lot of movies? Okay, Spielberg. Wait.
He's only done it once.
Yeah, no.
I'm surprised you haven't thought of the one that I'm thinking of.
The one you're thinking of
Yeah.
is what I'm not thinking of. I feel like there's got to be Ridley Scott.
Yep, Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott's. Is it like fucking A? Matchstick Men and Kingdom of Heaven?
Nope.
Body of Lies
Nope.
and fucking A.
Ridley Scott's done it 3 times.
That doesn't surprise me.
So in
Prometheus and
Nope.
Alien Covenant and Napoleon.
Nope.
No, Alien Covenant and the wealthiest man in the world, whatever.
All
that was.
the money in the world. Yeah, there you go. That was
Okay.
2017.
There we
Alien
go.
Covenant and All the Money in the World came out in
Okay.
the same year.
What else? He makes a lot of fucking movies.
Let me just give you the rest of
Yeah,
Ridley's.
let's go.
So also in 2021, he came out with The Last Duel and The House of Gucci.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2001, he came out with Hannibal and Black Hawk Down.
Wow, incredible.
One of the most prolific filmmakers of all time.
What a year!
This guy's
2001.
career is insane. Alfred Hitchcock did it in 1954. He made Rear Window and Dial M for Murder.
Wow,
Both came out in 1954.
Whoa.
Bergman, 1957,
Uh-huh.
with Wild Strawberries and The Seventh Seal.
Whoa.
1974, Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh, you got double Best Pictures.
Yep, he did The Conversation and The Godfather Part 2. More recently, one of the biggest filmmakers alive, Denis Villeneuve, did it in 2013 with...
Enemy and Prisoners.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go. That was a recent one. Who else? How many more times has this happened? Linklater did it in 2001. Tim Burton's done it with Charlie and Chocolate Factory and Corpse Bride. Steven Soderbergh did it with, you're right, Aaron Brockovich in Traffic in 2000. Then in 2001, he did Ocean's 11 and Full Frontal. 4 movies in 2 years, Steven
Jesus.
Soderbergh, which is absolutely insane.
He still works about that pace.
Yeah, he's pretty nuts. Let's see. John Hughes, The Breakfast Club, and Weird Science both came out in 1985.
No way. He directed Weird Science?
Yeah, Clint
Wow.
Eastwood did it 7 times.
Oh my God.
Most recently, he did it in 2018 with the 1517 to Paris and The Mule. 2008, he did Changeling and Gran Torino in the same time, but he's done it 7 times, 2 movies in the
Wow.
same year. De Palma did it in 1976 with Obsession and Carrie. Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles, and Young Frankenstein both came out in 1974.
He came in with the heat that year.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Sidney Lumet, Failsafe, The Pawnbroker in the same year, as well as The Fugitive Kind and Murder, Inc. Let's see, anyone else that... Akira Kurosawa did it. The Scandal and Rashomon in 1950, then Throne of Blood and The Lower Depths in 1957.
Cool.
Who else would you have heard of, listeners? Hitchcock's done it 3 other times. He did it with Rebecca and Foreign Correspondent in 1940, To Catch a Thief and The Trouble with Harry in 1955, and The Man Who Knew Too Much and The Wrong Man in 1956.
Wow.
So,
Crazy.
quite a few times has it happened.
That's
and there's,
wild.
And there's a few more as well, but I think those are probably the most well-known. Actually, Spielberg did it 4 more. Ready? 1997, Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and Amistad. 2002, Minority Report and Catch Me If You Can. 2005, War of the Worlds and Munich. In 2018, The Post and Ready Player One.
Jesus.
What a G.
How is he making those movies so fast? It's unbelievable.
Well, I think some take longer in post-production.
yeah.
You know how it is. And
Unbelievable.
He's working like crazy all the time.
What a cool guy.
So yeah, I'd say that's happened probably maybe 70 times.
Cool quiz question.
Thanks, man.
There were a lot of answers.
Yeah.
I got 1.
Yeah, you did.
1 out of 70.
Hey, good job, man. You failed.
5%. 2%. Okay, here's my quiz question. Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman reunited on screen in what film?
Reunited. So that means it was post Revenge of the Sith.
After Star Wars movies,
I'm just
they
talking.
reunited in what films?
I'm just talking. What would they have reunited in? Natalie Portman and Ewan McGregor. No, not that. I don't know.
Not that. Jane Got a Gun, the Western.
Never saw it. But I know of it. I know of it. Yeah. All right, Anthony. We got any unsubscribes, any haters this week?
Oh, yeah. We got some good ones.
Let's hear them.
Ready? We got some heat.
I'm always ready.
I saw Drag Me to Hell last night, and then I put for my Letterboxd review, all caps, that ending.
Love that movie.
T Snorter wrote, "Can't believe you spoiled that the film had an ending." Unsubscribed. Sorry, bud. It does indeed end.
Someone on social media commented getting mad at us for spoiling Seven. I'm like, this movie came out 30 years ago.
Come on, man.
30 years ago.
You haven't seen one of the highest rated movies ever yet?
It's been 30 years. I'm going to spoil the fuck out of that ending.
When should we stop? When should we be allowed to talk about it?
Never.
I'd like to know that from them. When is it okay to talk about it?
Never allowed.
When after they specifically see it, right?
Yeah, let us
everything
know.
revolves around them.
Steve from Tulsa, let us know when we can watch it and talk about it.
All right, landed on movie news. Still no mention of Florence Pugh's incredible stunt jumping off the second tallest building in the world for Thunderbolts. Unsubscribed.
We haven't seen it yet, but I know of it.
No, yeah, well, they showed that behind the scenes on the stunt.
True, yeah. I know of. I've just been saving it for the review.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, I actually haven't watched it because I want to save it for the movie.
It's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah,
she did it for real.
Yeah, I love Florence.
Yeah,
it was her idea too.
Yeah,
and she pushed Feige to do it.
Cool lady. All right, Spence Rebo.
Face card is on point.
Face card?
Her face card is. You're so old.
What? Face card? What does that even mean?
You really don't know what face card means?
Face card is on point?
You really don't know what face card means?
Is it like a photo of her?
No. You're such a boomer. So, like, this is how the kids talk, though. I get it. Changing times. But when you refer to someone's face card, you refer to how beautiful or attractive they are.
Oh.
Like their face card is immaculate or incredible, you know?
It makes no sense to me. You should just say she's beautiful.
Or her face card is
on point.
Amazing.
That's the way you call someone pretty now, is you say their face card is on point?
No,
what's happening to the language?
That's not the only way to say that they're pretty. It's just like a different way to talk about someone's attractiveness. I think it's fun.
The face card's on point.
Yeah.
It is on point. Thanks for that.
She's very pretty.
Spence Trubo. Getting rid of the intro title card in Score is worthy of an unsubscribe.
Still in there.
On the movie news?
What episode? Was that movie news? Oh, you took it off movie news?
I didn't do it in that one.
Oh, I thought it was on the Sinners episode. Sorry.
I forgot to put it in.
You definitely did.
That's what it is. Yeah. I totally forgot.
Yeah, because I put it in every
My
episode.
bad. I always put it in the movies.
Sorry, because I also commented that, it's there, but I thought they were talking about the Sinners episode.
That's my bad. I forgot to put it in the movie news.
That's Anthony. You fired.
Pack up your shit.
Get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck in the bag.
Don't fuck this up.
Speaking of mini Mets, hi, this is Ryan Gosling. I'm on my 58th alternate account and would like to say your impression was way off. It's much higher pitched than my real voice. I'm very disappointed, and I'll have to unfortunately unsubscribe.
I'm subscribing.
And then Michael Mann replied, yes, I agree. Unfortunately, I too have unsubscribed many moons ago. And then Ryan Gosling replied to Michael Mann, we should make a film at some point, man. And then Michael Mann said, are you interested in a leading role for a remake of The Pacifier? Gosling replied, of course. Any idea of the supporting cast? I can't wait to see the developments of this film further. Two huge fans of the show.
I love how Michael Mann unsubscribed moons ago, but he still listens and follows.
He couldn't help himself.
Yeah, I know, we're that good.
All right, that's it. Thanks, guys.
Fucking hell, that was funny.
Good timing, too. We were talking about Gosling.
Yeah, that's funny.
Full circle.
All right. You did? You good?
I'm good.
All right. We have a great 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts from DB.
What's up?
32B. DB32B. Their subject line
God-given name.
They must be Northern English because they wrote, what the Sigma? This pod is a bucket of fiery ice. 5 stars.
Nice.
This is podcasting, ladies and gentlemen. Right here. Let's go. The Raiders boys are cooking every time they release an episode. Now, thanks to Taylor Swift, we got a Terrence Malick episode in the works for this summer. Let's go. Let's go. This podcast is next level quality with the best movie breakdowns there is. Every episode is loaded with the best quality content and just overall pure iced fire. That's a good thing, parenthesis.
Thanks.
Also,
That's another new term.
a Dunkirk episode this summer? Thanks, Taylor. Actually, seriously, this podcast is a necessity for any film lover out there. Keep up the good work, and you're welcome for this review. I know it's the best you've ever read on the show. No need to tell me. Thanks so much. Keep it up. Context with the Taylor Swift. We had a reviewer who is the real Taylor Swift.
Last week. Yeah,
like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Taylor Swift is a fan.
So that's who DB is referring to with all the references to Taylor Swift. P.S. I drink your milkshake. I drink it up. By the way, I watched There Will Be Blood based off Anthony's recommendation, and it really is that good. Chef's kiss.
Yes. I'm glad you watched it.
P.S. Relzer. All right. Well, that was an incredible review. That is one of the best reviews I've ever read. You're absolutely right, DB32B. Wow, thank you so much for leaving that exciting, fun review that's full of inside jokes. And yes, Dunkirk episode definitely happening. Appreciate you so much, pal.
That was
and let me
awesome.
know, are you from Northern England? Because I know the English up north, they go instead of or they go
I think you're thinking of Irish.
Nope, I 100% am talking and thinking, and no, it's Northern English people.
Both.
No, it's Northern English people.
No, it's both. Irish people do that. Have you ever seen Saoirse Ronan speak?
Sure, but I'm talking specifically about Northern English.
Okay, I'm saying Irish people do the too.
Sure, yeah, but that's why I'm.
Are you talking about Northern English, James?
Well, apparently I can't, and Anthony knows everything about England.
No, I'm just saying.
Saying what?
Both do it.
Well, you just said before that English.
I was
people
wrong.
don't-
I was wrong.
Yeah.
You were right.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
I lived there for a month, man. Year and a
You're
half. Anyways,
They could be Irish.
They could be. Are you Irish or Northern England?
10-minute debate later.
Thank you, DB. Anthony, what's your streaming recommendation on this episode?
Companions on Max now. Check
Sure
it out.
is.
It's a fun new horror movie.
I like that movie a lot.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. My recommendation is a film on Netflix, 99 Homes, starring Andrew Garfield and Michael Shannon.
It's a good one.
Really good movie.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, early streaming movie days where they're making good movies back then. 2014.
It flew under the radar.
Yeah. Early streaming release. That was a banger.
Wow, that was a Netflix movie?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was Netflix. Was it Netflix? Hold on, let me double check. That.
I thought it was a tiny release.
Let me double check that.
Let's see. Who made 99 Homes?
Let's see. I
You
don't
got 99 homes in a apartment ain't one.
Actually, no, it did have a box office release.
No, how much did it make?
Theater, $1 million.
Yeah. damn.
Very low.
That's not good.
Wow, how many theaters did this release in?
It was a limited release.
World premiere of Venice Film Festival, Telluride as well, Toronto. Yeah. Wow, limited release. Yeah. Not many theaters played it. Damn, $1 million. What a waste of money, I guess.
Fuck. Damn.
I mean,
Brutal honesty. What a waste of fucking money.
not saying it's a bad movie. It's a good movie. Just saying it clearly didn't make any money.
It didn't make any money.
Everyone who made that movie lost money.
Andrew
except for the actors.
Garfield made more in a week of Spider-Man work.
Yeah, he probably did. All right, let's get back into our episode. Oh, did I say your recommendation?
Yeah.
What was it?
Companion.
Let's get back to our episode on Revenge of the Sith. And now let's get into what we were teasing.
What were we teasing?
How Hayden Christensen got a ton of flack for his performance.
Yeah.
And George Lucas' spectacle over dialogue. And Revenge of the Sith is, I think, a great example. I think the original trilogy has the best writing of the franchise for sure. The prequel trilogy definitely was spectacle over everything else. And this movie has breathtaking sequences of imagery and visuals. And the lightsaber duels and fights are phenomenal. Phenomenal! And the Mustafar sequence, man, I could watch a whole movie on Mustafar. It's that engaging and incredible, and just this, it's so incredible to watch. But specifically with Anakin and Padme, the dialogue can be quite cringe. It can be local theater level feeling and
Forced.
The acting. You have two great actors. I mean, Natalie Portman's an Oscar winner. She's so talented, and then Hayden's awesome. But you can only do so much with what you're given and the tools you're given. And you can tell, even with Ewan in some sequences as Obi-Wan, it looks like the sequence where he first discovers he's with Yoda, he's on a ship, and Order 66 is going through, and Anakin, and they discover the younglings have been killed by someone with a lightsaber, and he's like, who did this? And then they're on the ship, and Obi-Wan's like, hold on, Master Yoda, I have to find out what happened. I have to look at the security logs. So he's like, look at the security logs, and only pain you will find. And so he opens up the recordings of the rooms, and he finds the one of Anakin bowing to Palpatine and becoming a Darth Sith. And Ewan's reaction is like, no, I can't believe it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You would expect a little more emotionality, and this is a very dramatic moment, but it's very quick and kind of glossed over. They get the line out and they move on. So I think that's an example of the drama isn't felt as strongly as it could be from the directing of the actors in dialogue moments. And then obviously you have Padme and Anakin in their apartments in whatever environment they're in. And it's just, they're doing their best, you can tell. And I think that it was more of let's get the lines in. All right, we got the lines, let's move on. Or maybe the best takes didn't make it in, but some of the dialogue comes across as not well done.
And it's ironic. I agree with most of that. And it's ironic because Palpatine's written really well.
Yeah.
But you could say that some of the characters in the entire prequel trilogy, they literally say what they're thinking out loud, which is not how people talk. Because people generally hide what they're thinking, or they're putting on a front. So I totally agree. Like saying like, "Oh no, I can't believe it." That's like, there's got to be a better line than that for the reaction of the footage.
It's Cliff Notes. It's not exactly word for word what I just said, but it's something like that.
I was taking it as word for word.
I was
James.
just saying more.
I thought you transcribed it.
I'm talking more about the dramatic.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
exploration of the sequence of events.
I get it.
But also, that connects to a pacing problem I think that Revenge of the Sith has.
I would say it has a pacing problem.
Especially where it has this amazing opening 20 minutes. So bombastic. It's so exciting. Written so well. Acted so well. The stunts are awesome. The CGI, the visual effects. Killing Dooku is a great, incredible end to that first act after they fight Grievous, who escapes. And then the fake kidnapping and Palpatine being rescued by Anakin. And then Obi-Wan, then Anakin saving everybody basically at the end after Obi-Wan's knocked out. Awesome first act. And then it's probably 15 minutes of Anakin and Padme, and it really slows the film down. The dialogue, again, isn't great, doesn't help. There's a lot of exposition that's given to us about what's about the goals and the plots for the characters going forward, specifically with the dream, the nightmare happens, and also the pregnancy reveal. But I think that 15 minutes of mostly Anakin with Padme is a bit of a lull after such an incredibly fast, fun start.
I would say that it has a great first act and a great third act, and then sometimes middling second act, where it does you do feel a runtime sometimes in the second act of this film.
Except for when Palpatine's on camera.
Yeah, except when he's on camera. But once the third act kicks into high gear, it's fantastic. Once the turn happens, it's really some of the best Star Wars there is, the final 30 minutes of this movie. And I have a similar feeling to Return of the Jedi, where I love the first act, don't like the second act that much. It's okay. And then it has a sensational third act and climax and finale. And I think that Revenge of the Sith has a similar feeling, for me, to Return of the Jedi, with great start and ending, but kind of a lowering of quality of storytelling for the second act. And it does stretch out, and it's not as interesting as how the film opens and ends. But it does end perfectly. Like Return of the Jedi has a perfect ending. The finale is sensational. But for me, when I watch Return of the Jedi, I feel it till we get there.
Yeah, and even though these moments of lull that happen in Revenge of the Sith, and sometimes, like the dialogue isn't great and it's kind of wearing you down, I'm still just in awe of what George Lucas has created. 6 movies into this incredible world that he's built. So ingenious, so fantastical. The scope is massive. It's heavily immersive. And then the visuals are incredible in this film. that it's all forgiven. You know, you're like, fuck it, whatever. Oh, we're back with Palpatine. This is so cool. So I think that those moments are short-lived and they're easy to let go and forget because the rest of the movie kicks so much ass. The action is groundbreaking. You've never seen anything like the scale of the combat in this movie, even in the new productions. I still think the lightsaber fights, I think the lightsaber fight, obviously Mustafar is the best all time. Then obviously Duel of Fates in the Episode 1 Phantom Menace is a top-tier lightsaber fight as well. But also, Obi-Wan versus Grievous is awesome. Mm-hmm. Anakin and Obi-Wan 2v1 versus Count Dooku is awesome. Yoda versus Palpatine, awesome. So there's so many great lightsaber fights in this movie. There's got to be 5 epic ones, with the last one being the most sensational piece of action, I think, of the 21st century when it comes to this, obviously the Star Wars franchise, but one of the best action sequences I think that I've ever seen in my life.
It's so good that when every time it cuts away, I'm like,
I know.
Every time it cuts away from the Mustafar fight, I'm like, can we just watch that whole sequence?
I watched it for 3 hours.
Yeah. Whenever it cuts away to the other shit going on, I'm like, ugh.
Spielberg storyboarded that, right?
Yeah, he helped storyboard it and design it.
Yeah. And I think storyboarding, again, is so important to the prep of a movie like this. And when I was talking about the test shooting and the testing of choreography, it's for George Lucas's process. He likes to create his storyboards in motion so that he knows what it's gonna look like day of on set. Of course, they storyboard, they draw it, but then you film it and you test shoot it, so you have motion versions of your storyboards, which I think makes the process probably so efficient for him.
There's a really cool detail about Anakin's hair in this movie that's hinted at in Attack of the Clones. Why he wears his hair this way.
Let's hair it.
Oh, this is credit to my girlfriend who told me this. I did not find this fact on my own. In Attack of the Clones, when Padme and Anakin are just chilling and Obi-Wan's doing all the work on a different planet, you know, all that entire sequence of him guarding her, but they're just flirting the whole time. And she tells him about she had a crush on a guy when she was 12, and he had long curly hair. And then you can imagine Anakin grew out his hair long and curly for Padme to like him.
But he already got her.
I know, but still, because he knew she liked it that way.
Maybe she liked Giselle and Tom Brady when Tom had long hair.
Like whenever Brad dates a woman, he has the same hair as her.
Yeah, that's always a funny thing.
But it's a nice little detail. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Plus the hair looks great.
It does look great. Have you seen the concept art of the process? Well, the process of figuring out what the characters would look like was really interesting, especially when you're talking about Obi-Wan and Anakin, who are being played by Ewan McGregor for 3 movies, and we already know what he's going to look like as Alec Guinness in Episode 4. But then Hayden Christensen coming in Episode 2, growing up into the role for Revenge of the Sith Episode 3, where with, Obi-Wan, you have a finish point of where your character is going to end up aesthetically. And then you have Ewan, who in the first film, Phantom Menace, has a lot of similarities to Anakin in Episode 2. They have a similar haircut, the short haircut, and also they're fiery, they're full of energy, they're spunk, and they're, a bit of a wild card. But with Obi-Wan, it's really fascinating to see Ewan aging with the role and maturing as an actor and a performer and a person, I'm sure. But then the character aesthetically and the writing when it comes to the character is maturing with him as well. He's less of a wild card in Episode 2, and by the time you're in Episode 3, like Andy said, you have the beards there. The haircut's a little more clean cut, even it's a little longer and clean, and then he's a lot more sophisticated of a character. Like Alec Guinness is in Episode 4, such an experienced stage actor and actor in general, turning Ewan McGregor's character into the preliminary phase of that, or what he's supposed to be, is really fascinating to see. And then Anakin, you get to kind of play around with, you know what Darth Vader is going to look like in a suit, and obviously with the burned skin, but the world's your oyster. You can kind of do whatever you want, and there's a lot of previs concept art for what Anakin was going to look like, and one of my favorite looks that might have been a little too much, and obviously George Lucas agreed because he didn't go with it, was Anakin basically in a vest, a sleeveless vest for a wardrobe, and a short haircut, like jacked, bulging muscles, which I don't think would have worked. Like a lot of chest showing as well.
The robes, you gotta have the robes. Gotta have robes in Star Wars. Did you did you pick up on the high ground ending? I have the high ground.
Sure, yeah.
Did you pick up on that has a connection to another Star Wars film?
Let me ponder for a moment.
Ponder, where else the high ground comes into effect.
The high ground in a previous Star Wars film. Is it the fight with Darth Vader and Luke?
Obi-Wan and Maul.
Oh, okay.
Obi-Wan, Darth Maul has the high ground in their duel when Obi-Wan's hanging down that tube. And then the tube. But Obi-Wan does pull off the move, and he comes out on top and chops him in half.
Yeah.
But you could say his experience with that duel gave him the edge of having the high ground in this battle with Anakin.
That's an awesome point.
Because you think about it, like, he's been there before. He's like, trust me, bro. I know what you're going to do. I'm going to fuck you up. Because I've done it.
Because I've taught him everything he knows.
Yeah, I've done it, and I know how to do it. But because Darth Maul didn't see that coming, now Obi-Wan's like, I'm in Maul's position this time. I know the only move Anakin can make is he's going to do what I tried to do against Maul and succeeded, but I'm going to chop him to bits this time.
I think that's why he's so confident as well. It's a really good point.
Yeah.
Because he's like, dude, it's over. Like,
I never made that connection until this time.
That's a great point. We have to talk about the GOAT, John Williams.
Okay, I was like, which one?
Every time he makes a score for any movie, but especially Star Wars, it's so special. And Battle of Heroes is one of my favorite songs from the entire Star Wars franchise. It's incredible. It's nuts that every movie he can still outdo himself and, match the magic that he's created every time. And, it's a shame he never got to finish the Harry Potter movies out, because to see if he could have made 7 or 8 scores to that would have been incredible. But, we got 9 Star Wars movies.
I'd be listening to those albums a lot more than I do.
All the time. And it's so incredible. And the tone, he's so brilliant with tone. He's great with the drama. This movie is very dark at times, so he's able to emphasize that as well. But obviously, the similarities to the previous film, lots of brass, lots of orchestra, woodwinds, percussion. And I think he's just incredible at creating themes for characters, introducing new motifs, whether it be for Anakin in this film, the Sith, these emotional moments, and connecting it to the original trilogy, I think was a really strong suit for him in this movie. And then ending the film with the binary sunset, hearkening to the themes of the original movie, I think is really fascinating as well. And he's such a genius. He's so brilliant, and I love him, man.
I love the new theme he came up for, the General Grievous theme.
Yeah.
It's a great one. It's the heavy brass. Dun, 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 dun. And there's a little bit more of an extended version that you can listen to on the album. And I think that's just a really, really sensational villain theme that works so well.
Like Palpatine's also, he has that locutorial, for Palpatine's theme. But then Anakin's betrayal, awesome song. One of the best in the whole movie, too.
It's got the sauce.
It does.
And he's someone that, still using the classical orchestra pieces, still comes up with new sounds. He doesn't use electronics. He doesn't use any effects. He just sticks with the classic orchestra pieces, and somehow he still makes music that fits science fiction and science fiction fantasy on top of that. It's incredible. But yeah, I love the Grievous theme.
I love this movie. It's a good watch, man. It's always a good watch. But the fall of Anakin is like watching a car wreck in slow motion. Because, especially when you know it's
making
happening.
Bad choices.
It's tough to watch, but you can't help but keep staring. You don't want to look away. And George Lucas created one of the most incredible characters of all time with Darth Vader, not realizing at the time how big of a character it would be. I've watched this great interview where he's talking about that original film in A New Hope, and Darth Vader doesn't have a ton of screen time in that movie. But something about that character, this evil villain, with the aesthetic, the voice, everything, captured audiences and their attention and became arguably the greatest villain ever put on screen for cinema. And it's just probably just such a fascinating exploration of, he knew he was going to make more movies, and then he gets to explore. We knew this guy was so evil, and we saw in episode 6 how he tried to get redemption, which he does in a lot of ways. Obviously can't forgive him for the things he's done, but he does try to redeem himself, and that part of him that's still good that Padme believes in and knows is there finally comes out at the end of episode 6. But then to be able to break apart one of your greatest creations and tinker with it and open it up and show everyone what's going on inside with these 3 films, and specifically with this movie, artistically is just such a fun expression. I'm sure that he loved every second of, to be able to share what he was thinking and what he wanted to do with the character. But then to see the start, the rise, and what had to occur to create Darth Vader.
I have a crazy fact about Padme and her death that is just, I found online, and it's just mind-blowing, and it makes total sense. I never thought about it. So if you think about after Padme passes away and her funeral, they put her in like this really beautiful, like kind of like a stone brick, in a way, tub with water and flowers floating in the water with her, right? It's really beautiful, and it's very sad, and she's wearing this blue velvety lace dress and stuff. If you look at the image, she's actually still has her baby bump. And so, wisely, when they buried her and did her funeral, they made sure to showcase her baby bump, and even I think they added padding to it, maybe to make people think that the twins died with her. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that she still has the big baby bump in her funeral burial, to trick everybody to think that the twins didn't survive.
Oh, not audiences, but
not audiences, like people,
the rest of the galaxy.
Yeah, so that nobody would question what happened to Anakin Skywalker and Padme's children. So everybody thought that the twins were dead because the large baby bump on Padme's abdomen made it seem like the twins never made it out.
Oh, I think you're 100% correct. But also, no one else knew they were twins. They didn't find out they were twins until she was about to give birth.
True. Yeah, but like nobody thought that her child survived.
That's a really good point, and I think you're spot on. And I think they did that on purpose. So that's why no one went looking for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think that, speaking of creation, do you think that Palpatine killed Padme?
You mean like the power, the life force power kind of thing? No, I think that obviously Palpatine pulling the strings for everything and manipulating Anakin led to that event kind of happening. And so Palpatine's a really fascinating character because obviously he has other powers that Jedi don't have. You know, he can read minds. That's one of his mind probing is a Darth Sith power, which is why he always knows what Anakin's thinking. He knows about the nightmares. He knows about Padme's pregnancy. He fears Padme's death. That's how he always knows these things, because he can probe into minds. And I've seen that debate of, did Darth Sidious use his power that he learned from Plagueis, his master, of the life-saving power of the dark side, the death preventative power of the dark side, to kill Padme, to make Darth Vader stronger with the dark side. I think that it was obviously Anakin that killed Padme with his decisions, his actions, the course of choices he made, the path he followed by going to the dark side. Obviously, the broken heart thing, not everyone loves that point of death, but her losing the will to live because of Anakin's choices, that's what killed her. I don't believe that it was Sidious. Even though he caused it, Anakin's still the one that caused Padme's death.
He definitely rubbed it in.
He certainly did.
She's like, she's dead, bro. You did all this for nothing.
Bro, you killed her.
Seems your hate killed her. No. I like to think that he killed Padme.
So he
I think that
used the power of the dark side to kill Padme from like far away,
to piss Anakin off even more, to destroy what was left of Anakin's humanity.
It's interesting. It's definitely a theory. I don't agree with it. My guess and my belief is that he's not all-knowing, but like Yoda, he can sense things that others can't because of his powers. Obviously, reading into Anakin's mind, he obviously senses that Anakin has visions of the future. And so he probably read into that being an actual fact that Padme would die, and he kept doing things to make sure that it would lead to that path.
I think I like to think sometimes that Palpatine is more all-seeing than we even know, because they did film the dialogue scene when he's turning Anakin that Palpatine does say, and George Lucas cut it out of the film, that he created his life, and that Anakin didn't have a father. He was born through midichlorian Star Wars Force
they
stuff.
filmed that?
They filmed that, and George
Okay.
Lucas cut it. And if you think about it that way, if you believe that Palpatine created Anakin's life inside of his mother, then you're gonna ask, why did he pick that woman in particular? Why did he pick Tatooine? And why did he pick that region? Because if he's designing Anakin's life, why did Palpatine choose this certain circumstance, this certain woman to carry the child and raise the child? Then you got to think, was he pulling the strings for everything? Was he doing everything? Did he even know and anticipate Jedi going there to investigate and then discovering Anakin? And did he plan that it would be best for him to be it would be best for Anakin to be raised and taught by the Jedi in order to turn to the dark side? So then you get to factor in, like, how many strings was he pulling, and how far could he see, and how many things did he play a hand in and expect?
Yeah, I guess it's ambiguous because I think it's up in the air, but whether it's Palpatine or Plagueis that created Anakin, or maybe they both did. So
From what I saw from my research, the lines that Palpatine says in Revenge of the Sith, and this could be wrong, but this is what I found online, is that he says, in a way, I'm a father to you.
Yeah.
To Anakin.
So I would, and then why did they pick Shmi, his mother, as the vessel as the mother?
Yeah.
My guess is because no one would notice her, because she's a slave in this very remote planet in the middle of nowhere, in this desert.
A slave kid would never be noticed.
No one would notice them. Exactly. It's the perfect place to hide them, which is exactly, in a way, why Owen is brought. Luke.
Yeah.
Why Obi-Wan brings Luke to Owen, because Owen does have a connection to Anakin. He's Anakin's stepfather. So there is a connection there, but still, even though he's stepbrother to Anakin's stepbrother, not stepfather. Owen is Anakin's stepbrother. Still, he lives in Tatooine as well, in the middle of nowhere. No one would suspect.
I thought it was his uncle. Uncle Owen.
No, he's Luke's uncle, but he's Anakin's stepbrother.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I got mixed up.
Yeah.
My bad. You were right.
Yeah.
Uncle Owen is his brother, yeah.
But Owen is Anakin's stepbrother, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess being born a slave creates a sense of anger for and a distaste for any kind of rulers, or maybe that's why he's so antagonistic towards the council and doesn't respect authority as much as he should.
Maybe she's also force sensitive.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a mix of all those things.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I've never read the books. I don't know if it goes into more explanation of that stuff.
There's gotta be some stuff in there.
But Shmi is an important part of Anakin's fall, because losing his mother was so devastating for Anakin. Obviously, it shows how much hate is in his heart for those who wrong him as he goes on a path of revenge against the desert people and kills them all and slaughters them. But his fear of losing Padme, like he lost his mother, is what draws him to the dark side, to be able to prevent that from happening. Or, as he's told by Sidious, that you can prevent this, even though he never teaches him shit. But he just uses him as a tool. That's why he'll do anything. He'll do anything to save Padme.
Yeah.
Even though Padme just wants his love. She's okay with anything as long as they love each other. They can be together with their child. Little do they know it's twins, children. But Anakin will do anything to stop her death from happening.
Yeah. And you could say that maybe even Palpatine was putting those future visions in Anakin's mind.
Yeah. But also, this movie, again, incredible imagery, incredible battles. Order 66 is one of the most emotional parts of any Star Wars movie, in my opinion. It is devastating to watch, tragic. It's something you know about, especially the first time you saw this. You knew it was going to happen, because it's what caused the Jedi to be in exile and almost wiped out for A New Hope, episode 4, 5, and 6. So that's a tough sequence to watch. It's so incredible as well visually, but it's a tough sequence to watch because the Jedi are just betrayed on a dime because of an order they got.
There's too many of the Master Skywalker. What do we do?
Hardcore, man.
Yeah, pretty messed up.
This movie's awesome, but again, there are flaws. You know, Padme's limited character. Grievous is really cool. Doesn't have a ton of emotional depth, but he is a cool character, and he's got some great fights.
Yeah.
I like Obi-Wan off doing stuff on his own.
I have one big issue with this movie.
Let's hear it.
It's the biggest issue I have with the film.
Oh,
it's
all
a
right.
huge plot hole. And it's just like, given technology in this world and how high tech it is, so Grievous is holding that population of people like hostage, basically, in that like rocky area. When Obi-Wan flies down to that inner canyon. He talks to one of the Inquisitors, the super tall dude who looks like a vampire.
Yeah.
And the guy whispers, "By the way, we're being held hostage."
Yeah.
It's like Grievous didn't put a listening device on that guy. They thought he would. They didn't think he was gonna say something to Obi-Wan.
Yeah, well, I mean, if that's your biggest
They didn't
complaint.
want. I know, but I'm just saying, it's just like, come on. You guys thought he was just gonna pretend to do what you said.
He found out real quick.
I know. I'm just saying this. Whenever I watch that scene, I'm like, bro, like it was so easy to break apart this plan.
He found out the next day. That's not that big of a complaint, but I get it. I always think the same
When
thing.
I watch that scene, I'm like,
Yeah, I always think the
you
same
didn't make
thing.
sure to listen to what he's telling Obi-Wan.
It's
You
all
didn't-
made
you
up
didn't-
for,
You
though.
didn't want to make sure you heard what was being said.
They make up for it.
Yeah.
And the Battle of Mustafar is so great. I mean, the lava is so fascinating as well, and it looks so good because they blended real volcanic rock and lava and digital lava as well to sell the heat.
Yeah.
They actually used an erupting volcano in Italy, I believe, to
Cool.
composite for some stuff in there.
Well,
It's
the
cool.
lava looks great.
Yeah, not all of it, but
Yeah.
some of it, yeah. So there's actual real volcanic eruptions
Like
that they
miniature. They use as like miniature stuff.
no, like they filmed an actual volcanic eruption and put it in the movie
Ah, gotcha.
and blended it in
Nice.
with digital lava.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Looks great.
And yeah, I think it's really great. But I love this movie. Overall, top 3 Star Wars movie for me, in my opinion.
I'd say it's number 3.
And it's episode 3. How fascinating.
I'd say it's Empire, A New Hope, and then Revenge of the Sith. The top 3.
It was fun to revisit. It was fun to see in theaters again. This movie kicks so much ass. Thanks for always, sorry, I'm losing my voice, tuning into our show. It's always fun to revisit our favorite Star Wars movies.
Hope you guys enjoyed this if you went to see it in theaters for the 20th anniversary.
Now, you know what to do. Before you finish this episode, subscribe on Patreon. Become a patron today, patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. Subscribe on YouTube. Leave comments, likes, do all the things. You know the things to do. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. Share our content. Engage, comment, like. It helps us so much. And take care, everyone.
You want to take it from me? See you next time.
This episode was brought to you by our chosen one patrons, Jacob Kossler and Nicholas Martin. Thanks so much, boys. Raiders of the Lost Podcast is a mirror image production. Sound mixing done by Jacob Kossler. Opening music by Chase Jackson.